I got to play with the impact play and connection. And then at the end, I was able to have this nice, juicy squirting orgasm.
Nice.
And it was very built up. So it was a great release. And it felt great. And I feel great today.
Welcome to Sweet Release. Hi guys, welcome back. It's so good to have you back. I'm happy to be here with Miss Tia. She is a confidence and intimacy coach, and she's also an incredible pole dancer and so many things. We're going to be talking about a lot today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to be here.
Yeah, so I love your slogan because it's very kind of similar to my mission in a way. It's like, finding confidence. Like you help women specifically find their confidence and have like mind-blowing sex, right? And then also reduce and like release shame. So I think all of that is just stuff that I also love to talk about. And I really love how you kind of cater to women because I think that's so important. So I would love to know initially, like, how did you find yourself in that path?
So I'm from Utah, and I think just popped out of the womb a little bit like wild and different, like always pushing boundaries and societal norms. Like I was just kind of like a weird child that would be wearing bright colors and like pushing edges. And in Utah, it just felt like it was kind of wrong. And there was a point that I started doing shadow work. And when I was older, I think I was like 23, I just realized I was shaming one of my coworkers. And I was like judging her for being sexually free. And she was like having sex freely and enjoying it and not hurting anybody. And I realized I was shaming her. And I heard of shadow work and I did it on her. And it was like, it revealed to me that it was suppressed things that maybe I wanted to do. Like maybe I wanted to feel a little bit more free sexually and that it wasn't wrong to enjoy sex or not have a boyfriend first and all these rules. So then I kind of started diving into that.
Yeah. Could you explain shadow work? Because I know that's a common term, but some people might not know that. And then it's kind of like holding parts in darkness, right? So could you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, I would say shadow work is a good way to break it down is if you're feeling really triggered emotionally, maybe you're getting angry or this person keeps coming up in your head and they're really bothering you and you're just like, this person, and it won't go away. There's oftentimes something that they're bringing up that you're either suppressing inside of yourself or that you maybe do as well. And it's like triggering something. So trigger is like bringing up an intense emotion. And then diving into that, you can bring those up and reflect and be like, wait, is this something I would like? Is this something that I'm suppressing? And kind of like analyze it in the simplest way to share that.
Yeah, it's like bringing awareness to parts that like you said, it's like a trigger. I feel like with me, oftentimes shame is like present on your body in certain ways, whether it's like a tightness in the stomach or a weight on the shoulders, or like, I always tell my listeners that like shame comes up on your body first. And it's like, you have to listen to your body. And then it's like, okay, now why am I brushing these sensations under the rug? Like, let's just like feel it and feel it for a sec. And then, like you said, analyze it and really become like aware of what that one thing is that you're like feeling triggered about. So how do you kind of guide your clients into releasing shame and becoming more confident?
Yeah. So shame comes up in various forms. It could be they're feeling shame on their body, shame of success, shame of sexuality is a common one that I work with. And oftentimes it comes from the past or what we were told by society, religion, parents, and breaking it down, seeing where the root is and understanding if it's actually theirs. That's a big one. Is like, wait, I'm feeling all this shame, but do I really believe these things? Breaking it down and then being like, wait, maybe I don't. Maybe I would like to express these. Maybe I can change my mind of what has been programmed within me. And so kind of journal work, shadow work, going into the mind, retraining and reprogramming their mindset around certain things.
Yeah. And are those some of your rituals that you do, kind of like journaling?
Oh, yeah.
And I always encourage, I think writing stuff down is like so important for people to like heal and understand.
Yeah.
Do you have any other rituals?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of rituals. So with shame, I do it pretty quickly now. And I can like figure out, oh yeah, well, I see that's part of me. And ooh, how can I bring that into my awareness? How can I bring that darkness out? I go over a lot of these in my course, and one of them is mirror work. It's something I try to incorporate often. And a lot of women shame themselves when they look in the mirror, or they are comparing themselves, or they're looking at their body and they're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't good. I have fat on my stomach. And so whenever I get into that headspace, I try and look at myself in the mirror and take some deep breaths and get into my body and start appreciating what I do like about myself. And you can start small. So if you have a really hard time about that, you could do something like, I like my color or softness of my skin. I like my eye color. I like my nose. And then kind of just add things and appreciate your body. It could even be, I like the food that I eat. That makes me have a yummy belly. Like, appreciate it and be like, ooh, I love the stretch marks on my body because I have kids and I love my kids, or I've lived life well. So kind of like giving love to your body and appreciating it and changing that energy before you keep condemning yourself.
Yeah, those affirmations are so important. I remember going through a dark time. It was through a dark breakup, and I was like just hating myself for certain things. And it just was coming up in kind of just hateful ways. And that inner mind that's just like saying rude things to yourself. And you're like, what is going on? And so I remember my therapist at the time was like, put these words like affirmations, like what you love about yourself. And I put them on sticky notes on my mirror. Yeah. And every day I would just kind of like look at myself and remind myself. And so I really love that. I've never heard of the term mirror work, but that's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I like to push my clients to do it naked. Oh, so after the shower, in the shower, often we hide from our nakedness. And so I challenge them to sit in front of the mirror and feel it. And it's going to be usually very uncomfortable, and practicing it daily, especially if it's uncomfortable, like getting comfortable being naked and spending time naked and getting ready naked, or doing something like dancing or working naked, and just kind of getting comfortable and feeling good in that expression and being naked.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because I do feel like it's also vulnerable, but it's the more you do it, the more confident and comfortable you will be. Yeah. So I'm sure your clients will start feeling that confidence after consistency.
Yeah, I had a client once that reached out to me, and she'd never had sex with the lights on.
Oh, yes.
And naked. I think she usually kept her bra on. And that was a big push. She did end up having sex with the lights on and getting more comfortable with her body. And you could even see she started taking pictures more and feeling comfortable. But I was just like, oh my God. I was like, I don't think I've ever been like in the dark. Like, I like the lights.
Yeah, but that makes sense. Like, I feel like that's probably a common insecurity. If you're feeling, insecure about your body, that you always want to like leave the lights off. So that's really special that you opened her up.
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy. She definitely started exploring more and feeling more safe in her body. And just lit me up. I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah. Do you also, like you just mentioned exploring, and I love, that's a big theme of mine is, encouraging couples and, self-pleasure too, but like to encourage you to explore. Do you often do that too?
Oh, yeah.
Big into exploring?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't have sex till I was an adult, but I just right away wanted to explore all the things. Like, I got one of those like little BDSM kits, like right after I had sex. And I was like, ooh, can you do this? Ooh, can you tie me up? Like, ooh, can you spank me? And like, I liked all the like pushing the edges like right away. I remember sorry, this is like off topic. My head just like is like, I just remember watching like 50 Shades and being like, but I wasn't abused. Like, why do I like this? Like, why do I like to push the edges and be spanked or, like pain? And so that was like a little bit of struggle with me. I don't know. Did you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I can relate because I do think there was a lot of content in the BDSM realm, in the media where it was like, oh, people that are into kinks have something wrong with them.
Yeah.
That was kind of the message it was giving you. And yeah, that's one of my messages too, to allow people to remind themselves that your kinks are your kinks and you're unique the way that you are, and it has nothing to do with trauma. Yeah. Sometimes things can stem from trauma always. Like, that's not saying that those can't be correlated, but they're definitely not. It's not like a causation,
Yeah. And you can heal the trauma and keep the kink if you'd like.
And you can heal trauma through kink too.
Yes, exactly.
So there's lots of ways, and through pleasure and just like intimacy in general. Yeah, you talk a lot about what's your that message, your slogan? You talk a lot about like harnessing that intimacy or what is it? The power. Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm like owning your sexual power, like something owning it. I'm like
mind-blowing intimacy. Yeah, what is the key for you to mind-blowing intimacy?
I would say making sure I'm a fuck yes in my body. Often with me, with people, we're like, we should do it, or we feel, especially as women, that it's taking too long is a common one. Like, oh, we're not completely aroused. Oh, we should just do it. Or, oh, we should have an orgasm, or all the shoulds. So to have mind-blowing sex and orgasms and pleasure, it's to do it for you and being in your body and feeling good and feeling connected. And that's a big part of what a lot of people are missing, is that connection with their body and their yeses and their, I don't know.
Yeah, that confidence.
Feeling.
Yeah. I like that you use the word connected too, because I do think that that's the important part before we connect with other people is to like connect to ourselves. Yeah. And there's so many times, like you were mentioning in the beginning, growing up in Utah, like I'm sure there were, it's a different place to Mormon country, right?
Yeah. And a lot of women would be like, oh, I don't need to pleasure myself. Like, that's for a man to do. And they wouldn't know how to get themselves off. And then they're like, well, they should just know what to do to get me off and complain about it, or just not even know. Like, your body, once you know your body, it's powerful. And then you can share that with somebody. And then you can go to new heights and new arousals. And a lot of the things I like to explore with my partner, I've explored with myself first. And I kind of like see what I like and how I feel comfortable. And then I feel even more comfortable to do it with somebody.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, is to like, go within yourself first or explore your body first before, just diving in. Because you also never know what your boundaries are sometimes until you try it. You can really think and be like, oh yeah, that's probably not a boundary. But once you're in the moment, like experiencing it, sometimes it can be like, oh, okay, well, maybe that isn't exactly what I expected it to be. Yeah.
Or you could find out things that you like that maybe you wouldn't have done with somebody. And you're like, wait, I like this. Ooh, maybe I could have a partner do this. So, yeah.
Yeah. How does it feel to now be so much more free and confident, growing up the way you did?
Yeah, it is. It's just freedom to be yourself. And it's hard to explain what that feels like in your body, but I just feel peace in my mind. Like, I'm okay. I can be myself. I can go out. Trying to think back on my past self, it's like I had so much worry to dance or to be myself or to express or say the things on my mind. And once you feel fully free and at peace with yourself, you just float through life or dance through life, and then you make friends and relationships, and it just vibes. And it's magnetic. So it's just night and day difference. And clients. I found my last client at a sex party. Like,
nice.
yeah, it's just like magnetic. So you feel free and magnetic.
So that's interesting that you found a client at a sex party.
Yeah.
Was she already trying to like open up, but you just kind of helped her harness on that confidence even more?
Actually, so I'm recently just infusing it all. I've been a marketing coach for 7 years, and I'm like, you know what? I'm all three. I started getting clients and they're like, yeah, I want to build my business and I want to work on love. So I'm like, love, sex, and marketing coaching. Okay, it's three. It goes together. I'm just going to own it. She wanted to actually go out of sex work and start building a purpose-filled business with pleasure and purpose. So that is like one of my courses and what I've been doing in the last 7 years. And it all goes together because, like I said, being your authentic self, healing shame, you're just more magnetic and you're just more free and you have more creative energy and passion. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are all connected. I mean, like you said, it's like finding your authentic self, being confident in yourself and learning about self-love and doing that shadow work and mirror work and then using that to then channel into your true power.
Yeah.
And, channel that in the bedroom. That's where the magic happens.
Confidence in the bedroom and the boardroom. Yes.
Love it. How did you kind of release shame? Do you have any experiences where you kind of like let go of the shame?
Yeah. Okay, so this is in my TED Talk, and I was scared to share this before. And another moment of like that shadow work and that triggering was when I went to a studio a pole studio, and I saw a woman in like the 8-inch heels. So the pleaser heels, they're stripper heels, and she's dancing around and she's doing this really sexy leg work and like twerking, and it's really exotic. And she was filming for social media. And I remember feeling like judging. And I was like, she shouldn't be doing that. She shouldn't be sharing that with her audience. Like, she's not getting paid for that. Like, the people are going to think of her as a stripper. Like, I was judging. It's hard to admit that now, but I was fully judging her. And I did the shadow work and I was like, wait, I wouldn't mind feeling sexy and maybe wearing heels and make it not mean that I'm a stripper. There's nothing wrong with strippers, but I grew up in Utah and that's like in my brain. It was like, oh, you can't do that. You can't be sexy and successful, and you can't be respected and sexy.
So how did you kind of how did you learn from that and kind of go the other direction?
Yeah, so it wasn't instant. It was not like that was about, I don't know, let's say like 10 years ago or something. And it wasn't instant. Like, if you go look at my page, I like pole dance videos and sexy and twerking. It wasn't like, oh, I had that shame and then I just like changed. It was like, ooh, what if I took a class? What if I got heels? What if I like allowed myself to dance sexy? And then maybe several years later, I felt more comfortable each taking a little step of being like, ooh, what if I shared that I do pole dance and I'm a business coach? Like, either little steps along the way to get to where I am now. And so it's just little things that I was excited and scared about.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I also really loved in your TED Talk where you like came out in a red dress and then you like pulled your red dress down. So it was like knee high instead of short, and put on a blazer and talked about like the judgment, like you were talking about. I thought that was a great visual,
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, people judge based off looks or energy or whatever it is. And so I think that's a good lesson. Like you said, you were judging this pole dancer. I think that's a good lesson for people to remember. Like, everyone's on their own journey, and you should never really lead with judgment, because oftentimes when you're judging someone, that can stem from like your own shame.
Yep.
Right? Which is like what you learned too.
Yep.
So yeah, I love that.
It's just programming. It's just, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're not respect all those things. Yeah. And I love dancing, and I teach pole dance now, and I love those 8-inch heels. So it's just insane, like, how much growth I've had. And it doesn't mean, like, anybody listening that you have to like do what you're triggered about. It just, that's what I wanted to do. And it could just be, you want to dance at home and feel sexy. or maybe you want to explore new things.
Yeah, or try a new piece of lingerie or whatever it is.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah, that's so true. Tell me more about dancing. So, I talk a lot about connection and pleasure, and I feel like dance is like means that to me. Like I feel very connected when I dance. Yeah. How does it feel for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, dancing is my passion. Like, I love it. I feel lit on fire. I am a natural performer. I love performing. So, like, when I'm performing, I'm in my bliss. I'm in my, like, zone. I love it. But, I've always been a dancer, but now that I've connected more to my sexuality and more to, like, pole and exotic and expression and heels, it feels very like delicious in my body. I get tapped in, I get turned on, I get like flowy, and like oftentimes I'll try and have a daily dance party to get that like juicy arousal, turn on energy to like do a podcast, do a sales call, like harnessing that sexy turn on, because sexual energy is life force energy. It's like alive.
Yeah, I love that. It is this sensual energy when you get to move your body in certain ways. And so that is I could imagine that being a good ritual too. Yeah. It sounds like of yours, like dancing before an interview or dancing before, the TED Talk or whatever to get you relaxed. It's like a way of relaxing too.
Yeah, it used to be on my morning ritual, and I just recently added it because I'm like taking on clients and I'm telling them to do their morning routine, and I'm like, oh, I need to do my dance routine. Like I used to be so good with it and like post it on stories to keep me accountable and stuff. And I need to redo that because it does. It's just like fun. It gets you going, gets you excited.
Yeah, it's also a mood booster. For me, this was a similar time when I was going to therapy and went through a bad breakup where I went to like an ecstatic dance for the first time. And I went to several, but it was just a very healing experience to just be able to like tap into my body after I felt like I went through so much. Yeah. And just to kind of let go. Like I do also feel like it's a very freeing.
Yeah. It's a great way to get into your body because you can't really dance well if you're in your head. Because you can't really like go with the music. If you're like, next step, you come off a little bit robotic and like it doesn't flow. And as dancers, you realize that you really have to trust yourself and feel into your body and trust that you know the next move without thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like surrendering to letting go.
So oftentimes I like to help people get into their body and dance and move. And then they're like, oh, this is what it feels like to let go. And not be like, oh, I have to do this pirouette and this leg kick. Oh, and then you're noticing it doesn't flow as well. So it's that like surrender, get into your body. And it's sometimes hard to achieve if you haven't yet.
Yeah. And you said you teach pole too. So do you often teach like just kind of like the base? I've never been to a pole dancing class. I've always wanted to go. I'll have to come to one of yours now. But do you teach like an actual routine, or are you just kind of teaching like the basics to make people feel confident?
Yeah, I currently teach beginner, intermediate to advanced. So I have like 2 different classes. And so I do mostly tricks, conditioning. I love tricks. I have taught dancing classes. I used to teach twerk classes. I've done like workshops. And so those are more like getting into your body, twerking, moving. Twerking is a good example of not trying so hard to be good at twerking. You kind of have to release and let go, not tighten. So that's kind of a good example of like getting into your body. And I've done like more flow classes where they can just move and flow with the music. So I've taught a variety.
Nice. Yeah. I went to a heels class not long ago, and that was like a beautiful, empowering experience. Yeah. So I can imagine like a pole class being very similar, because it's a special art, dancing in heels or dancing on the pole. And so it's cool to see so many women and men and, people across the entire gender spectrum going to all these classes. I mean, it's such a big industry now. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe I've done it for 10 years. It was not acceptable, really, 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And I lived in Utah. So it was very different. But you watch people's confidence change in front of your eyes. Like you watch people just like get into their body and like start feeling like confident, shoulders back. And it's a really amazing community. Like we're cheering each other on. Like there's all different shapes and sizes. Lots of people are like, oh, I couldn't go to your class because I don't have upper body strength or I'm overweight. And I'm like, no, there's all shapes and sizes. There's different classes for different levels. You come and build that there. Like you don't have to go work out and then go to a pole class. It's the opposite.
Yeah. And it is, yeah, I like that. The community is so important with all of these aspects, dancing or even like coaching. It's like finding someone that you can finding someone that you can trust and that makes you feel good and it makes you grow.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. And you get instant praise.
Yeah, so, gratification too.
Yeah,
the praise too.
The praise, like
everyone's probably cheering.
Everybody's cheering you on. And like one of my instructors was telling me, she was talking to her therapist and she shared this on stories and she was like, yeah, my therapist brought up that the reason why I started loving pole is I would do something correct and they would be like, good job, you did it right, like instantly after. Where we don't get that in very many areas of our life. Like, you did a great job, you did it right. And she was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, we should always be cheering each other on.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up as a cheerleader, so I always feel like I have that energy.
Yeah.
And so it's very refreshing to have that. And I'm sure at a studio or, yeah, you mentioned like sex parties earlier too. I feel like that's also a space where everyone's like cheering you on and just making you feel good, which is
nice. You got off. Yeah, shake that booty. You look so hot. Look at that lingerie. Yeah.
So true.
It's a great space.
Yeah, it's awesome to see so many more powerful women, like us, like opening up about sexuality and pleasure. And I just think it's a space that so many people need more healing and need help. So it's, thank you for opening up about all of it today. Yeah, let's talk more about kinks. I know you said you bought your first like BDSM kit and just, did you go down the rabbit hole or?
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm naturally pushing the edges. So I just wanted to try new things. Like I remember the first guy I ever had sex with. I was like, let's go have sex like in a truck or at the mall or in a car or while you're driving. So like I was just very adventurous from the get-go. And sometimes I hear people are like, well, won't you run out of things or then vanilla will be boring? And that's so wrong. Like it is. Like I still love missionary and I still love, I wouldn't say vanilla sex,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love to push the edges. I recently tried shibari. I did my birthday fantasy at my partner's place and I did a fantasy in front of people at my birthday. And it was like doing a bunch of sensory play while being bondage to the wall and having like at least 3 people at once doing sensory play on me with blindfold. And then I didn't know at the time because it was so quiet, but everybody was watching.
Wow. Yeah. That's fun.
It was so fun. I was like, perfect. And
so was this something you saw kind of in a dream or were you just like, this is something I've been fantasizing about forever?
Yeah. I guess I've had this fantasy of like St. Andrew's Cross and like being tantalized and teased till you're like just dying and tied up.
Yes.
For a long time. And then I made a version that like worked and that I could do for my birthday party.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
I love that for you. Yeah. Happy belated birthday. That was recently, right?
It was super fun, super delicious. I loved it.
Yeah. Sensory toys, I have some feathers and some ropes over there, but I feel like I tap into the senses more than like the power play dynamic of it. And so I'm always encouraging that too, especially if you're in a relationship where one person maybe is a little bit more on one end of the spectrum of just kink or just kind of exploration, to really just kind of find some sensory toys that you can explore with first. Because I did a couples, excuse me, I did a couples retreat workshop not long ago. And that was the biggest key that a lot of these couples found was like, oh my God, Barbie, you're making me feel like this kinky stuff is like sensual. And I'm like, yeah, because it is.
It is.
And a lot of people see it as, like we said before, like the 50 Shades. And like, it's like seen as kind of this harsh, traumatic, kind of weird energy. And it's really not. And so it's beautiful to see people like more embrace into like the senses and kind of open up to more that beautiful side of it.
Shibari is one of those. It looks very intimidating and like, whoa, like, I don't know about that. But I just had one of my past clients try Shibari and she was like, it was so beautiful. And I felt safe and held and I was able to get in my body and let go. And I was like, yeah. And then doing it with a partner, if they can do it right, like they just like hold you and make you feel safe and just a different level of connection.
Yeah, it is a different level of connection. And I think when you're in a relationship too, for, however long, it's nice to explore those different levels of connection because again, you're exploring your body, but it's also a time for you guys to bond and just learn something new. And that's, like you said, it's kind of like that life energy you were talking about. Like it just fuels you into the next day and just makes you feel good.
Yeah. And it's often scary to try. Like even yesterday I did like some sensory play and we ended up doing it with a girl and like it was her first time. We just kind of like shared it and like dipped her toes in and she was loving it. And
you and
like,
your partner and her? Okay.
Yeah. And so like just kind of like sharing how to be safe words, like dipping your toes in. Is this okay? And she just loved it. She was just like, yeah, like
it's nice,
relax.
It's nice to open people up. Like I've always loved being like people's firsts or like, opening that door for them a little bit and being like, this is where you can explore.
Yeah. And then giving them that safety of like, this is how it's done if it's done safe. So then if they ever notice that, oh, this doesn't feel good in my body, they're not thinking in their head like, oh, I'm not doing a good job or like, I'm not doing it right. It's like, no, it's good to have a safe container in these edges and kinks and whatnot.
Yeah, so true. You've mentioned your partner a few times. Are you guys in a committed, like, I guess you're a little bit open because you bring women in sometimes. Do you consider yourself monogamous, but you like play, or what do you consider yourself?
I'm E&M, ethical non-monogamy, and we have been mostly open, and then, yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I want to share this yet, but
no
we
pressure.
just change different boundaries at different times, and we're kind of going to explore a new, more closed container, but yeah, I'm very open and go to play parties and have fun and connections and whatnot.
Yeah, it's important to remember that boundaries can always change.
Yeah.
So even if you were in like an E&M relationship previously, like sometimes your energy can shift or your job or whatever it is, it can just make you lean in like a different direction.
Yeah. You could start monogamous and then you're like, ooh, I want to do play parties or threesomes. And then you'd be like, ooh, let's take a break. Or, ooh, I want to start dating other people with you or without you. Yeah. It can always change. And that's one of the biggest lessons with E&M is that what you're doing now doesn't have to be forever and it can change and flow and you don't even know.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. How do you keep your confidence? Because I know you're a confidence coach. So how do you, when you are sharing, I've had a lot of listeners, that are scared to share. So how would you educate people that are nervous to share their partners and like keep their confidence strong?
Yeah, no, this is hard. It's continuous work.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey.
Lifelong journey. Like you're not alone. There is jealousy. That's normal. There are feelings. And oftentimes those feelings are showing you something that maybe your needs, like that you're not being met. So in the past, I was like, why am I getting so jealous about this person? Why is this like other person bringing up so many things? And I had to look inward and be like, oh, maybe it's because I don't feel secure. I don't feel stable in a certain area. So I had to bring that up and talk about it. And like, how can I get that security, stability? And then try and figure out what those needs are being met. If you're really triggered with another woman, is it like you think they're going to leave? Is it you don't feel as pretty? Is it like, it could be so many different things. And then like trying to understand and work on that within yourself and also possibly with your partner. But understanding that it's normal and it's often showing you something to work on.
Yeah, it's educating you. It's giving you something to listen to and lean into.
So I guess to go back to your question is to work on yourself, make sure your needs are being met by yourself with your partner, and notice that, I don't know, with the partners that I've had a lot of threesomes with, I had to make sure there was some sort of stability or security that they would help me with. And like we talked about it, like one of them was like, I'm not trying to replace you. And he said it in such a genuine way that I felt secure. And like our relationship wasn't, the women weren't taking away from our relationship. It was more adding to it, and it was fun, and it was us together. And then other partners, it's like, oh, we can explore together, or we can try new experiences or people, and we can like make new friends. So it just kind of depends on what your needs are. But oftentimes, if it's just insecurity, it's something that you might need to work on within yourself.
Yeah, that's all great. And I'm glad we were talking about this because I do think sometimes it's like you have to work on this yourself, but sometimes it's like you have to work on this as a partnership or just bring some awareness to it. But then it's also like, yeah, I just think it's so important to just, yeah, like you said, listen and really just ask yourself those questions and say, hey, like, what is it that's happening here?
And you might not know right away. I think it took me a little bit to understand the last time. I was like, what is this? And then there's some things that I still don't even understand that I'm like, what is this bringing up? Like, it's good to have that outside perspective.
And it's good to focus on solutions too, I think. Like an easy thing to do is if you're feeling insecure about something or if you're worried about, whatever. I'm trying to think of a hypothetical, but basically my point is I think solutions are really important too. So if you're saying like, even like, okay, babe, like if this is going to be our first threesome, like I don't want the other partner to like have your cum, or I don't want the other partner, like I want more eye contact with you throughout the night. Like I want you to intentionally be focusing on making eye contact with me because that's going to make me feel secure. Or like little things like that where I think you can make it like a tangible, like kind of like a solution where it's like, okay, that's going to make me feel good about the experience and like tiptoe into it,
Yeah. And then this is something that I coach on, is like phrasing it in a way, if you have a masculine partner or a masculine man, or like you are that feminine energy, to be like, hey, I would love if in this experience you made sure to make some contact with me and looked in my eyes. That would make me feel very appreciated, loved, adored, connected. Like share how it would help you feel. So it's not like a list of like demands, because then men don't typically want to be bossed around if you're in that type of dynamic. And so like sharing how it would make you feel and giving it an option for them to do is also very powerful, because
yeah, that's great advice. Like focusing on I like sentences instead of you, like say how how I feel, how this would make me feel. Cause that's really how partnerships grow and evolve, is if you're telling them how you feel and how that would make you feel better, then they can cater their decisions to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is great advice.
Because then if they're in the space and they're like, oh my God, all these demands, and they're going to like kind of like freeze and like, oh, I have to do this. And they like feel like restricted, versus like, ooh, I want to make my woman feel good and loved and sexy and appreciated. And it's a different energy.
Yeah, that's great advice for communicating. So it's often hard for us to communicate about, pleasure and sex and intimacy. And so I do think, that's all good advice. Do you have any other advice for how to communicate?
I would just say a lot of women, I just finished a podcast, a lot of women tend to control, dictate, castrate, and condemn. It's like the C's. And we really don't get the desired results from that because like just that last example is they don't feel like they have the power to choose. They don't feel like they are in their masculine energy. And so they're being dictated. And men don't want to be dictated if they're in that masculine energy. They want to be able to provide.
Yeah.
So if they have the option to provide, then they will choose that. And if they have it's like a game. Like if they can help you feel happier, they would like to do that. But if you demand it, so instead of being like, I want to go on a date tomorrow, you're like, ooh, I would feel so happy and you would make me feel very supported and loved if we went on a date night this week. You know, make it fun.
Yeah, I love that. Or I would love to just dress up and go out or something.
Yeah, like it would make me feel so appreciated and loved.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Sometimes we just have to like change the way we say things to make it feel more absorbed, you know, because there's so much. Just sometimes we judge or we say the wrong thing and it can be skewed in any direction. So it's nice to just focus on how things make you feel. I think that's really the key.
And it's a practice. And I struggle with it too.
Yeah, we all are still learning.
The tone comes out and you're just like, can you just stop? Like, but I do notice the change when I do it in a way that's more heart-centered and allowing them to step up. But it's a practice. It's not easy.
Like we said, it'll take a lifetime.
Yeah, just continuously working on it.
I love that. Well, I love asking, actually, I want to ask you one question before my last question because, we did talk about kinks, but I do like to ask because I like to normalize kinks and pleasure. If there's any specific kinks that you're comfortable sharing or anything that you love. I guess you talked about shibari already.
I love impact play.
Oh, nice.
I'm a masochist. I love being tied up. I like blindfolded. I like being submissive. I am a very dominant woman. Like I have a lot of masculine energy traits where I do like to-do list. I'm an active person. Like I just,
you're a
to-do list. I'm a businesswoman. So I do like to submit and surrender with my partner and like be able to let go and be tied up. And like, I like pain. It gets me out of my head. It's like intense. And I like multiple stimulation, like my birthday fantasy, impact play, spankings, flogging, even like dragon's tail. Like I love sensation, like intense sensations.
And multiple things at one time.
Multiple things all at once. Just all the things make me go out of my head.
So is your favorite type of orgasm like a blended orgasm where you're having like clitoral, internal, cervical or nipple or whatever, like all the things?
Yeah. Nice. That was a good question. I'm like, yeah, probably. I would say that. Internal, cervical, then like be able to squirt. It's like, all the different types.
Love that.
I'm curious, can I ask you what yours is?
Yeah, mine blended.
Yeah.
I educated on orgasms recently in a workshop too. And so I was like, oh yeah, like this is my favorite. So my favorite is clitoral stimulation as well as like internal G-spot stimulation. So the best is to have an orgasm, like having those at the same time. So typically my partner's like penetrating me just missionary and I have like a vibrator on my clit. But it's tough because you have to be going for a long time and it's tough to get them at the same time. But when that happens, that's like the best.
Yeah, it's so great.
And I actually had this table the other day. I'm a server on the side and stuff. And I had this girl table the other day and we were talking somehow. It came up about, they were like, oh, Barbie, your name's so cool. And I was telling them about my podcast and they started talking about orgasms and they were like, yeah, just the other day, my partner was like asking me if I came and she was like, I didn't know what to say because like, I did come, I had a clitoral orgasm, but like I didn't have an internal orgasm. And I do feel like there is this kind of orgasm gap of like education for people knowing like, okay, there's so many different types of orgasms you can achieve and have. And some women definitely prefer some over others. But sorry, I just went on a tangent. But no, the truth is like the blended ones for me are like the favorite.
Yeah. And there are times like where I desire to have like a squirting orgasm because it's more of like a release of like tension buildup.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I could have like a different orgasm, but I'm still like desiring that release. And it's not always. Like sometimes I don't really have to have an orgasm. So it just depends. But yeah, please, ladies, don't ever lie that you had an orgasm. This does not set up anyone for success. And it literally hinders your sex life.
Yeah, or say, actually, I just had a clitoral one, but I really love having internal ones too.
Yeah.
So, like, educate them on how you can achieve that too.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's true. Don't lie, but also educate.
Educate and
let them know what you like.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be like, I used to think that an orgasm meant that I had to come like externally. And I thought I didn't ever have an orgasm because I thought, based on porn, it has to be liquid. And so I didn't understand that I actually had been having orgasms.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can have full like body, just like quivers and shakes. And, like, the whole waterfall feeling and throughout your body.
Exactly.
Don't focus on the cum. We're different than men.
Yep, 100%.
Well, speaking of orgasms, I love to ask my guests the last time they had that sweet release.
Oh, like a few hours ago. Oh. It was great.
Okay. What was it like? Little morning sex?
Well, actually, we kind of went to bed late-ish, but so technically today, but it was probably around midnight-ish. Okay. And I got to play with the impact play and connection. And then at the end, I was able to have a nice, juicy squirting orgasm.
Nice.
And it was very built up. So it was a great release. And it felt great. And I feel great today.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it makes you feel good. It's like, like you said, it's cathartic. It's a release, but it's also like a mood enhancer. And it just lets you feel ready to start your next day.
Yeah. I love that.
I love it too. Thanks so much for sharing, Tia. And thanks for, if people want to find you, I'll link it below, but you do marketing, sex, and confidence coaching, as well as like we talked about pole dancing. So I'll link all that below. But if there's anything else you want to add.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love for people to follow me on Instagram. I'm on there. I do stories and podcasts. So Sexy Biz Babe on Instagram. And feel free to DM me any questions. My DMs are open for questions, not like, hey, not like trying to hit me up in a different way. But
yeah, we don't like that. Stop doing it, people.
Yep, right? I'm like,
come on.
Why do you want to respond to a hey anyways? Like that, I don't have time for that. So yeah, questions.
Intentional
connections is I'm open with.
Well, thanks so much for being vulnerable and being here and sharing everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. And thanks, sweets, for coming back week after week. I love you guys. Be sweet out there. Talk soon.